Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast. My name is Chris Piekarski, and on today's episode of Echo Essentials, we have President and CEO of Nipissing University, Dr. Kevin Wamsley. So we had Kevin in. It was great. I know him from my prior work at the university, but it was important to get him in to talk about some things happening with Nipissing in the last little while in terms of like their 5-year, kind of outlook called the Strategic Mandate Agreement as it's worked out with the provincial government. We talk a bit about international students, tuition and funding. We talk a bit about housing, student needs, cultural needs, and audits. It's a really cool conversation. We get into some of the weeds on like how the university looks and feels from the eyes of kind of like an executive type, which is very fun. It's not something that I have at all witnessed, only experiencing it through the eyes of, at this point, student, staff, and alumni. So it was always kind of fun to have those perspectives come in to Echo. So it was great. Give it a full listen. Enjoy it. Let us know what you think about it. Subscribe, of course, to all things. But before we get to the content, though, we're going to throw it to our title sponsor, Source for Sports.
It's almost that time of year. Early mornings at the rink, fresh notebooks and backpacks, and a community gearing up for another great season of varsity sports. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of it all. Whether it's finding your kid's first pair of skates, gearing up for tryouts, or outfitting your team for the season ahead, we've got you covered. Because here, we're not just a sports store, we're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to cheer you on every shift, step, and stride of the way. Visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street and let us help you along your way.
Today's episode, we have President and CEO of Nipissing University, Dr. Kevin Wamsley. Kev, how are you?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Glad to have you in. We were mixed up a bit before, but we were chatting up to see. It's nice to see you again because from our listeners, from those who track, where I've come from, they know I've worked from Nipissing University for a period of my life. And it's always nice to kind of sit down and talk to folks from Nipissing, but I got the president, I got the CEO here on a very busy week because you have lots going on. But how are you otherwise? How was your summer?
Summer was great. A little bit of work, a little bit of play. Went back to Nova Scotia for a few weeks, swam in the ocean, played a bit of golf.
Oh, nice.
Had some good meetings with the government over the course of the summer and went fast.
It does go fast.
Say. Yeah.
Yeah, it does go fast. So for our folks who know maybe a little bit about your background, I'll kind of give a bit of a timeline. You're welcome to fill in the blanks, right?
Okay.
You're a president and CEO. You joined Nipissing, I believe, in 2021, if that's correct.
That's correct.
Yes. And you have previous experience at the president, VP, and provo level at St. FX?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Antigonish, Nova Scotia. Yeah.
That's correct.
6 years there.
Okay. And you have some background in Western U as well, I think. As
18 years at Western.
As a dean or as associate dean?
Dean for a year, associate dean for 9, and professor for 18.
Okay. There you go. So for those who don't know, he's got his chops. He knows his education well. In being, at the helm of Nipissing University for the last 4 years, a very interesting 4 years, I'd imagine, in the post-COVID world. Things have changed. Things are dynamic. You have to kind of move with the pulse of the provincial government, obviously, as you kind of talked a bit about. So we're going to get into all those things here today. Just talk a bit about that. So last little while, obviously, it's coming up to about the 5-year period of the Strategic Mandate Agreement, the SMA, right? So I think that was a 2020 to 2025 period of time that I think the provincial government tracks Ontario performance in terms of schools and funding and how that allocates. It's a really complicated, the package is gigantic. I tried to print it and read it quickly and do more of it. And I feel like as much homework as I did, it's really hard to kind of divest and pick apart parts that I could try to understand. But essentially, and you're welcome to correct me on this, it helps to allocate university performance in Ontario with funding that the province can provide. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we're just starting SMA 4 this September.
And so what does that mean?
Well, I think for your listeners, the common assumption is that universities are for-profit institutions. They're not. They're not for-profit. So there's money in, there's money out. About 70% of our revenues go towards salaries and benefits. My daughter-in-law said being president of a university is kind of like being president of a small country. So we've got a very diverse population of 4,300 students on site and another 2,000 online. And it's our responsibility to provide them with an outstanding educational experience and help them move towards the next chapter of their lives as they head out near and far. Mm-hmm. And so forms of revenue available to us, student tuition.
Yeah.
Anywhere from $7,000 to $9,000 a year. International students pay a little more because there's a difference between what we receive in tuition and the true cost of education, which is about, it's over $20,000.
Correct.
And so the government grants, which is what you're talking about, make up some of that difference. And so in recent years, provincial governments across the country have been more interested in accountability frameworks. Right. And so they want to see good performance. They want to see return on their investment. And so we call it the corridor funding model. And essentially, back in 2019, they set levels of enrollment in programs and would fund you accordingly. What's happened in the meantime is that programs some are more popular than others, and mm-hmm. many people gravitate to Nipissing University for education. I mean, we've been in the education business since 1909, so we're very good at that. And there's a shortage of teachers, and so we have had more students than we received grant funding for. Mm. So that's been an issue for us, okay. And same with nursing. But the government has seen the high demand for nursing and has moved towards expansion of nursing and expansion of education. So those are very strong programs for us, and so we are expanding. We built a $1 million simulation lab mm-hmm. for our nursing students at the campus, predicated on the split between Canadore and Nipissing of the nursing program. We each offer our own programs now, and so we needed a good facility, and you cannot do without simulation.
No, you got to have it.
So that's a program we're very proud of, and we're proud of many programs. And so essentially, revenues in tuition, government grants, fundraising,
yep,
and ancillary services. So residence beds, meal plans, groups that come to campus to use our facilities in the summertime. We try to rent as many beds as possible in the summertime. We do have summer academic programs as well.
Yep.
And essentially, that's our only types of revenue that are available to us. Mm-hmm. So that's the challenge.
Right. And I imagine it's I'm not a budget person. I try to, do as best I can with what we do at Echo. But it's very clear, I'm a presenter type. I'm not a big math guy. I try. But budgeting at this level, as you kind of alluded to, it's kind of like a small country, or it's definitely its own community. There's so many different levels and layers to it, and there's so much that you have to kind of try to predict and account for and balance. And when you came when you came into the fold in 2021, I know Nipissing was kind of, exiting out and planning out a bit of their own financial, issues. I guess they had a pretty large deficit. And it's been a couple of years since that was maybe in the headlines locally and provincially. There's been a lot of different headlines in education right now in terms of college sector specifically. But going about this and budgeting it, how is Nipissing's trajectory? How are we doing right now?
Well, we might as well tell it like it is.
Sure.
Everyone looked to Nipissing as the next Laurentian university. Laurentian ran into trouble, followed the CCAA process, which is a form of bankruptcy.
Yep.
We're forced to lay some folks off and to cancel some programs. Mm-hmm. And so universities are looking around and looking at us as being the next one. We had been running some deficit budgets for about 10 years.
Yeah.
It was a real challenge. Nipissing had not entered the foray of the international student market, didn't have a very diverse campus. City of North Bay was not as diverse 4 years ago. So we started to recruit international students in earnest to try and bring the diversity to our campus and the difference of opinions that really make for a flourishing campus. Mm-hmm. Really has an impact on people. And we got into it a little bit. We got up to, when I arrived, there were 71 international students, and universities had been recruiting international students for decades.
Yeah.
So at our peak, we had 400 students, and as you know, the federal government cracked down on that, and it's really had an impact. But fortunately for Nipissing, we hadn't have 20 years of revenues that we had been putting up new buildings or hiring new people with this new money, and so we hadn't got to that point yet. So that's why you're not seeing in-year deficits like you are at many of our other institutions.
Right.
They've been cut off at the knees. And are having to recover in a quick way. We entered into a partnership with the provincial government when I arrived, established good relationships. I said, here's what we're going to do, and I mapped out a plan about enrollment and how we would work with the government for funding and how we would develop our ancillary services. We would be staunch members of the community. We would create opportunities for students in the North, for the North, and we've had a very good relationship with the provincial government. And we have we broke even in that year in 2022, and we have had balanced budgets ever since.
Congratulations.
So we will balance the budget again in 25-26, and we have built up our reserves to a respectable level.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I mean, it's been years since I've been part of the university, and I wasn't involved in any part of this. Even though you'd make an argument that recruitment is part of that revenue generating kind of formula, for sure. But it's awesome to see that the university is trending on the balanced side of things. That's great. And I think I know we talk about how other institutions kind of maybe leaned heavily or a little more reliant on international recruitment, international students and tuition. Going about it at the pace in which the university did prior and going forward, it's kind of like, I don't want to know if it's like a happy accident, but if it's just maybe good coincidence and maybe good planning, that it kind of worked out in the way that there wasn't a large reliance on international students. And now you can kind of create a plan after having everything that's happened before to maybe, build up a reliable and consistent and a predictable base for international students. Would you say the same?
Well, I think that by the same token, we could have used more revenues in those 10 years, and balancing the budget is very important.
Yeah,
economic stability is primary concern. Bit of luck, I think.
Yep.
I think the federal government is going to have to work in a partnership with the provinces to straighten out immigration, to tell the truth about immigration and what it means to us. I know in the city of North Bay, we're in need of talent. Corporate leaders are always coming to say we need talented individuals in certain areas, including data management, artificial intelligence, business, and we're well aware of the professions.
Yeah.
And so we're going to need a more stable system, a predictable system that keeps Canada a very diverse country and enables opportunities for immigrants to come here and thrive like we did as European immigrants, all of us.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's reason for optimism. Things will probably get a little worse before they get better. But I think formulating a strategy for immigration is going to be very important for Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I know a lot of, in working in prior work, and again, I always refer to it because I spent a large amount of my time there. A big emphasis was making sure that when I was at the university, there wasn't a rush to get international students in when there was an opportunity to do it, even though you talk about having a need for maybe some of that, revenue to come from it to help a little bit in those times. But it never felt like the university was ever trying to capitalize on a trend. Like they could have, I'm not saying they could have, but like they could have been, suggested to allow a large influx of international students in to kind of help offset that. But I remember conversations at the university being, well, we need to, if we want them to stay here and contribute to the community and be part of the community and get the bang for the buck that they're paying for, we need to make sure that they are culturally supported. And that's a huge part of that equation that I don't think maybe some people really fully incorporate in terms of the whole yes or no international student, immigrant kind of conversation. But it's a big part of it too, right? Because if they're going to come here and if they don't have a great experience and they go back, not only is that maybe potentially a loss of, revenue in terms of tuition, but it's also like a bad PR look because it's going to make the university potentially look bad, right?
Well, more importantly, you need to treat people like people.
Of course.
You have humanitarian concerns.
Yes.
And so as we began to recruit more and more international students from different parts of the world, we created spaces for them. We furnish spaces for students to be able to hang out with each other. Canadian students, international students. For example, our Office of Indigenous Initiatives was a prime area. International students, it was so friendly and welcoming in there. They could go get something to eat. They could talk to people, get to know people. It was fantastic. We picked them up at the airport when they arrived. So we made sure that they had housing. We had emergency housing if they did not. We established services to match students with prospective landlords and to match what each was looking for, so that our students would have housing. And so we provided them with supports. We celebrated cultural festivals over the course of the year so that our students could learn from international students. Really was a good model.
Yeah. Just speaking to that a little bit briefly, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it not just in this past week that Canadore College and Nipissing University had their shared joint powwow on campus?
That's correct. Yes,
right?
On Friday, I think there was close to 1,000 people there. It was the 20th powwow. It's a welcome back for students. There was drumming, there was singing, there was dancing. It was fantastic.
I remember them very fondly. For me, I was from North Bay, right? Whose grandfather was like a refugee post-World War II. It's always really great for me to kind of tap into those cultural opportunities, and being on the land here, being on Indigenous land, I always remember fondly from the powwows of like just how powerful it was, how together it made everyone kind of feel. Especially at a time where like everything's kind of like exciting and nervous, especially at the beginning of the academic year traditionally, which is September. Like it's a good feel, right? And I was at it last year. I didn't get a chance to go it this year, but 1,000 people is a lot of people.
Yeah, it was really good turnout. Really a terrific day.
Mm-hmm. So if I can, I want to dial back to the international thing just a little bit, if we can. So what kind of initiatives are the university, what kind of initiatives is the university implementing right now to kind of recruit internationally now that everything that's happened has happened? What are they doing right now?
Well, I think that people come to Nipissing University for particular reasons. It's not just any old university. It's quite a contrast from the universities in Southern Ontario. It's more akin to some of the universities on the East Coast. It's very much like St. FX, Mount Allison, Cape Breton, St. Mary's, Acadia. Very much the same in size and focus. There's students who come here for particular reasons, and for international students, Nipissing University is a very safe campus. And the parents of international students are very interested in safe campuses for their students. We're student-centered, and so we want to ensure that we have an inclusive campus, which we will always be working on, and of course, having a safe campus for students. And then there are unique opportunities because it's a northern city. Because we're on 700 acres of beautiful forest and rocks and waterfalls, it's an absolutely spectacular setting that is just not the same as other universities. And we have a very active population. North Bay is such an active population 12 months of the year. People don't hide away in the wintertime here. And that's a unique experience for international students. And there's lots to do. And they want to be part of our community. And so you will see in some of our environmental studies courses, for example, students will have snowshoes on and they'll go up to the weather station that's near the property, and they'll have their labs outside, or they'll be tapping trees in the forest in that 700 acres. And that's 2 minutes from their biology lab. They can walk right out into the forest and have their labs out there. And so we're also just in the process of building an outdoor classroom, a 4-season outdoor classroom that should be up hopefully by the end of this term. It'll be a bookable space for the community, and our faculty members have told us they want to be out there 12 months of the year. They don't care how cold it is.
Good luck in January.
Yeah, so they'll do it. And so these are some of the unique aspects of Nipissing University that are attractive to both domestic and international students. I mean, there's a group of students who really like the size. You can walk one end of the campus to the other in under 5 minutes. And the class sizes are small. I mean, probably the busiest class we have is probably economics at 150 students. But really, our first-year classes aren't much bigger than 50 or 60. By the time you get into second, third, and fourth, you are in large seminar experiences. So that's unique. And the campus has a different feel. a president, I know that because I run into a lot of the same people all the time. And we share committee structures together. And so there's not much separation for me and the rest of the campus, and there's unique relationships between professors, lab instructors, staff members, and students that cannot possibly exist at universities of larger scale.
And so you think that's attracting or alluring to international students in terms
I think
of
so, yes. The experience, the cultural experience is way more intense.
Well, it's also I would imagine it's more personal. I mean, from my experience, it was. Like, you talk about the small seminar kind of situation. Like, that's 100% true. Like, I remember it was a fourth year sociology course in 2014. I think the class was 5 people, right? Which people can, like, maybe be surprised at. It's not that uncommon from my experience and understanding at Nipissing. But I think what adds to the value of this, and maybe the international students and just the general students who are looking at, bringing in and coming to campus are seeing it value, is that you're getting quality time with not just your peers, but the people who you're looking at learning from directly. You're not going to be in a class of larger numbers later on when you really want that kind of more finite approach to education. And I guess that's working at international level, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's very attractive.
I'd imagine in terms of hurdles that the university might face in terms of international, I guess maybe it might be like that very classic Canadian winter. Would that be a big hurdle for those who might be coming from a different climate? Like, what are some other factors that the university has to kind of get over?
Well, we have to make sure they have the supplies and the clothing that they need when they get here. So,
yeah.
Other issue is food.
Yeah.
Food security. And so, as you know from our Nipissing University Students Union, they operate a food bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the food pantry now, as it's called, I think.
Food pantry as of this year, and we raised money 2 years ago. I put a cabinet together of some great citizens in North Bay, and they raised $636,000 to put in a fund, the Student Support Fund. So this is for students who are experiencing emergencies, so extenuating circumstances, car accident, sickness, family illness, a fire. These are some elements in your life. Life gets in the way sometimes. And some of these things can force students out of university to leave, and we don't want that. And so we've made a fund available, an endowment that will kick some money out that will assist students in emergencies.
Interesting. Would those emergencies include things like housing?
Well, if you had extenuating circumstances, right?
Right.
So it depends.
Right. Because I bring that question up, Dr. Wamsley, because, in the last, couple of years, especially in a post-COVID world, housing in any place that has like a post-secondary kind of school, housing has become difficult. I think it's become more expensive on average, and not a lot has changed in terms of having access coming out of high school to make that easier for students who are looking at coming out of high school or international who might not know the market. What things are Nipissing doing right now to kind of help alleviate maybe some of that pressure, if that case that was a make or break need?
Well, I think in the first instance, Nipissing University's always had good infrastructure. We've got housing for almost 25% of our students on campus. That's a very high percentage point for universities in Ontario.
That's high?
That's high.
Okay.
And so, yes, there were a lot of headlines about housing in the post-pandemic era. And, we have 2 medium to large institutions in the city, which puts pressure on the housing market. And there was a reluctance. There was a drop in housing because people were reluctant to have people in their homes during the post-pandemic in the early year and a half after that. And so we lost a lot of spaces because of that. Now people have slowly come back.
Okay, they are coming back.
Yeah, so we did our part to put people in place. We actually hired a person who worked full-time on aligning student needs with landlord needs in the city.
Okay.
So finding out how many students were arriving without housing who had not, even though we try to prepare them 6 months in advance to seek out housing opportunities in North Bay, some show up with no housing. And if we don't have anywhere for them to go, we do have emergency housing on campus, so for a handful of students at a time. And students use that space, certainly. But we hired someone full-time to match students with landlords, and landlords came to us when they had demands. And so it's terrific to have a great relationship between the landlords and the city and the university. It's very important because the university and the college are so important to the city. I mean, it's almost 10,000 people that arrive, and some of them stay. So that's quite an in and out for the city, and so you need to be very efficient operationally to manage that. Otherwise, people get caught in the cracks. Yeah, and food and housing, that's not something you want to mess with. Those are humanitarian concerns. And
human rights.
We need to look after people.
I completely agree. Just one little small addition. I love how you call it a city. This has been my hill to die on, so to speak, in terms of people who are like, oh, North Bay is like a town. Everyone refers to it as hometown. I refer to it as my hometown, but I wouldn't classify it as a town. It's a small city, but because it has all the things you'd need, including, post-secondary and challenges that come with that, which can be housing. So when you talk about hiring a person to kind of help work with the landlords, university on that side of things, like what does that kind of look like? Like building up those relationships back up or entirely new? Because there's got to be a lot of like understanding their needs and their requirements. Because you said they have certain demands or needs. Like, what's that look like?
No, when I say demands, I mean when there's housing demand.
Okay,
there's housing demand and there's a supply. Okay. So landlords came to us with supply.
Okay,
and so the individual, there's many components to the job. First of all, it's sort of an emergency service. So we got to make sure everybody's okay, and we need to know what their circumstances are. How much can they afford? Are they quality spaces? So when I pick somebody up at the airport, and I did get on the schedule, which was great because I got to meet students at Christmas time. And when I drop them off, I make sure I carry their luggage up to their apartment or wherever they're going, whatever their house looks like, and to get inside so that I can make sure that it's a high-quality unit.
Yeah.
So the individual worked with students to determine their needs, took calls from landlords who had places to rent, and then we instituted a dating software for landlords and students.
You say a dating software?
Well, we'll call it that because it's really software that's designed to match landlords and students. Because some landlords like education students, for example, because in the last 2 years they're older, they're more mature, they're quiet.
Yeah.
Some landlords and some people who wanted to welcome people into their homes wanted conversation, or they wanted to provide a discount so that they could have their driveway shoveled or their groceries picked up, right? So that, was all part of a social situation. It wasn't necessarily a traditional landlord-tenant relationship.
It feels complex.
It was seniors, for example, in North Bay that wanted to rent a room. They wanted company. And so you have to find the right kind of student who's also interested in that, getting to know someone, doesn't mind shoveling the driveway every now and then for a discounted rent, for example. Doesn't mind spending time with one of our seniors, having conversation, learning about Canada, and vice versa. Yeah, sure. So it's really quite a good relationship. So the software matched people up.
And then matched up people domestic and international?
Primarily international.
Primarily international.
Yeah, domestic kids kind of like to do things themselves.
North Bay's turning 100, and what a time to be here. From the buzz of the Heritage Parade to sunset concerts at the waterfront, the city is alive with celebration. And you know who's right in the middle of it all? Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. We're proud to be a part of this milestone moment. Whether you're coming home from a family reunion, planning a gathering with friends, or just simply making the most of everything the Centennial has to offer, our doors are open. Stay in a spacious suite that feels like home, with a full kitchen to cook in, room to relax, and a space to unwind after a full day of fun. Are you hosting something bigger? Our event spaces and amazing local partners like the Grand and Stock Transportation make it easy to bring people together. Best of all, they're just steps from the action. The fireworks, the food trucks, the music, the laughter, it's all right here. Celebrate 100 years of North Bay with us. Use code Centennial to save on your stay anytime this year. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or give us a call at 705-495-3000.
Dear North Bay, you've always been more than a place on the map. You're home to me. This is where I built a life with my husband, raised our kids, and taught in local schools for over 24 years. I'm proud to be part of this community. Earlier this year, my world shifted. After living with anxiety, depression, and PTSD for much of my life, I reached a point where I couldn't keep going alone. Walking into the emergency department at the North Bay Regional Health Centre was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But what I found there changed everything. A nurse who made me feel safe, a crisis worker who truly listened. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. That care gave me hope, and it inspired me to give back by supporting local healthcare so that others in our community can access the same compassionate care I did. If my story resonates with you, I hope you'll consider supporting the NBRHC Foundation. Please visit nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125 to give. Because mental health is health. With gratitude, Tiffany Van Meer.
In terms of like housing at the campus, I know you guys have, make sure I get this right. You have the Townhouse Residence Complex.
Correct.
Governor's House.
Mm-hmm.
You have Chancellor's House, and you have Founder's House.
Correct.
I don't think I'm missing any.
Nope.
Is there any, maybe I'm just trying to, seek a story in this situation. Is there any, avenue in the future in which you guys develop a new residence complex or building?
I made a promise when I got here in the particular financial environment that existed that I would not add to the long-term debt of Nipissing University. So if we do enter into that kind of arrangement, and certainly there have been individuals and companies that have approached us for partnerships.
Okay.
I do not believe as of 25, 26, 2 years ago, I decided that we did not need another residence. That's a big investment.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
You are probably looking at $50 to $75 million plus. And that's a long-term investment.
Yeah.
And you better make sure you've got the enrollment to feed that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to put the university at risk.
Yeah.
So I would say, I will never say never, but we need to have significant demand before we go down that road.
So what would that demand look like? I mean, maybe, I guess, like a 5-10 year consistent, history of increased enrollment, projections to a certain, decade or two beyond. Like, what do you need to look for that, if that was a need, not just from the student body, but the community at large?
Well, I think you have to look at expansion of existing programs. Some programs may go by the wayside, and maybe there's new program development.
Mm.
So our provincial government is very interested in promoting STEM subjects. And so we are looking at expanding our STEM student numbers in the next few years. But we'll have to see to what extent as time goes on before we think about any construction projects.
Fair enough. I'd imagine, you talked a bit about the nursing program, the education program, the education one specifically going back to 1909, I think the North Bay Normal School.
That's correct.
What it used to be known as, and the system of education that existed there. Nipissing is home to the Schultz School of Education, which is the only Schultz School of its kind in Canada. And I know in certain areas of academia, naming is very important. And Nipissing has, been trying to, do different ways in terms of attracting and pitching different students, like expanding STEM. But education has been a big one for a long time. When education numbers, when they changed the program from 1 year to 2 years, when there was influx of too many teaching candidates, now there's the flip side of it, there's not enough. Like, how do you go about trying to read the future? Like, how do you know it's going to be a slam hit? Like, how do you know?
You don't. I talked to an economist.
Yeah.
Because no one's able to predict the future.
Yeah.
Best guesses. One thing I will say, though, is in nursing and education, you have some limiting factors in there, and that's clinical placements for nursing and education placements. Mm. There's a limit. As if all of our programs across Ontario expanded, you're going to be getting into each other's territory. Mm. And it's difficult to find clinical placements for students as it is.
Right. Does the province ever step into play or part of the conversation in terms of if there's an idea at the university level, right? And we're we want to start this project, this new program. And will they ever get involved and be we want to help you move this along forward to kind of meet the needs of something like STEM? Or will they ever you know what, this is maybe a good idea? At what point are they involved in that process? Or is that strictly the local level?
Well, no, the province does become involved. You may recall there were some announcements in the south, Toronto Metropolitan, York University, new med schools.
Yeah.
The province becomes very involved.
Yeah.
And so it depends upon the program. But the province has an interest in having enough teachers, nurses, doctors. So yes, the province does become involved.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about, let's see here. In terms of campus culture and community, we talked a bit about the powwow. We talked a bit about a couple of things happening up off air, but you have upcoming homecoming coming to campus, which would be, I believe, September 19th, September 20th, which is the Friday, Saturday. Can you tell us a bit about what that's going to look like and what that means to students who might want to come back, or I guess graduates rather?
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's very important for people in North Bay, for example, because we have a lot of graduates that live in the region. So
yeah.
People love to come back to campus. They love to see their professors, and our professors make themselves available. They come to campus. We generally have athletics events going on throughout the day on Saturday. We'll have our alumni awards on Friday night, and there's a social gathering for alumni on Saturday evening. And so we've got people who come from out of town and folks who live in the region who will be here. Should be a good weekend.
Fantastic. I think we're going to try to send Ben. I say send. I'm not going to be in town. I'm visiting my partner in Parry Sound. She's house sitting in Parry Sound, so I won't be able to make it. But we're going to send Ben up there to cover one of the various different sporting events. But like I know homecoming in different universities. I'm sure the East Coast may be a little bit different, maybe a little similar. What they offer in terms of their alumni. To what degree does the university kind of connect with their alumni and, interact with the alumni and engage with the alumni beyond something like homecoming?
Well, as a matter of fact, I had to miss it because I had a conflict, but on an annual basis, our alumni go to a Blue Jays game.
That's pretty cool.
In Toronto.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I saw everybody there with a Blue Jays hat. So the Blue Jays hold a university night, university and college night, and provide discounted tickets, thousands of them. So you can see all the universities represented there. So our alumni always jump on that one. We went to a women's professional hockey league game in Ottawa last year and had a bunch of our alumni there. And so we're always trying to find ways of, we do a very good job locally of inviting alumni to events that are going on campus. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say we have so much that'll occur out of province. That takes a pretty big infrastructure. We've got a very hardworking alumni board that's very engaged with keeping in touch with our alumni. And there are informal parts to that as well. There's a giant Facebook group that's operated by graduates from the education program. So they all keep in touch.
Yeah. I'd imagine the Eddies, as they're called, will often keep in touch, especially in a education graduate-friendly job market, I guess, where they want to see who's working where, who's hiring elsewhere.
Yeah, what courses are being offered for upgrading, for example.
Yeah, very good point. I asked because, in terms of incorporating the alumni part of the conversation is like, I talked about the whole expanding housing or, residence kind of facilities that I feel like people in comment sections of certain, news articles about the university or whatever have you, they'll be like, well, why isn't the university doing this? And it's usually something that like a bigger university or college, for example, could do because they're a larger institution, right? And, in terms of like, well, why couldn't you invite people back from BC you do, obviously you do invite them back, but in terms of how that looks like, I always find locally, they maybe misunderstand the size and the scale on which Nipissing can operate in terms of because I say we. Nipissing University is not like U of T, right? The third biggest university, I think, in the continent. Like, it has different kinds of weights. And I think sometimes the community, the general public, kind of get lose sight of that. Do you find there's any kind of, public involvement in terms of like communicating that, or is that something that doesn't really happen in your field?
I haven't seen it.
Fair.
Certainly it's an issue of scale.
Yeah.
But from all accounts, we'll have hundreds and hundreds of people at our 2 soccer games on the weekend. So there'll be all kinds of families who will attend and make a point of coming back. They'll get together and play golf with their old school buddies. They'll go hang out and have a drink and enjoy themselves. So it'll be a good weekend for everyone.
Fair. I in terms of talking about the whole scaling part of it, obviously the university is keen on growth, continuous growth, steady growth. What other things can contribute to the growth of the university in terms of it being enrollment or culture or programs? What things do you think that the people of North Bay can see in terms of seeing the university grow?
Well, growth is a matter of demand. You're not going to get growth in certain academic areas. You will get growth in others, particularly professional programs. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a finicky market in that respect, and you have to be able to project out several years.
Right.
So I would say it'll be a modest growth, and I don't think North Bay will notice it that much.
I also think
we don't want to be a bigger institution.
Well,
we have something to offer that people really like, and there's something to be said about a rural, primarily undergraduate university.
Right. And you use the words primarily undergraduate. Working in the field of external relations and recruitment, I know what that means in terms of what a lot of people maybe view this conversation as from the lens of like a Maclean's ranking magazine, where we are Nipissing University is, heralded as a top primarily undergraduate university, but they'll see that as scale of like, well, why don't we do this? Why can't we expand rapidly? Well, it's because, one, I don't think, my opinion, right, the city is set up right now to expand that rapidly, but the university kind of can't because like things don't happen at the snap of a finger, right? It takes time.
Well, you also, in your comments earlier, said that people consider North Bay to be a town. So there's only so much of a scale of an educational institution that would be appropriate for the town.
Fair.
So let's take U of T.
Okay.
It's 100,000 plus students now.
Yeah.
Western's going to move to over 50,000, but London is pushing 500,000 plus.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of scale and what infrastructure that the city has to be able to service a college and a university.
Right.
I think the size is about right. We could get a little bit bigger according to our infrastructure, but population in North Bay is not going up and down.
No. You think it's maintaining at a steady pace right now?
That's my understanding, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always heard, I've heard through conversations with, being part of, ECHO and just being involved in communications in general across the city that like the city is looking to grow and it's looking at growing and it is growing. I've seen 52,000, on the city sign for a long time now. It used to be 56,000. When I was younger, I remember it being 64,000. But I mean, things are different in terms of population demographics, and like, I will say this to kind of maybe try to ram my point home in a certain degree. North Bay has become, in my lived experience, more culturally diverse than it ever has been. In terms of just people you see on the day to day, engaging with the community, things have changed, and maybe that's a sign towards potential growth opportunities. To say that people who aren't just from North Bay, will live here and they'll come here and they'll come for opportunity, whether it's education or otherwise. And so I guess the interesting part is like, what's Nipissing University's role in that aside from just, contributing to enrollment? I'm assuming there's some sort of give back element to that as well.
Well, I think that the diversity that you're seeing in the city in the last 5 years is because of Canadore College and Nipissing University.
It's both. Yeah, you're right.
And I would say in addition to that, people will come where they're welcome and where they can thrive. Mm. And so it's a matter of North Bay opening up its doors and saying, we're interested in having a diverse city, mm-hmm. and people are welcome to our city. Yeah.
It sounds easy, right? I mean, it should be, because, how hard is it to be nice and to be welcoming and to be inviting? But, it's a weird world we live in, and we don't have to get into, like, the semantics of, like, what is weird and what's troubled and what's complicated, but, like, there's just so much more to it now. That's part of the conversation that might just be like noise or might just be misinformation that I feel like when it comes to welcoming people to the city, it should just be really simple, but it's not, right? And I think, looking at the role that a post-secondary educational institution will play, like a Canadore College, like a Nipissing University, getting people here, making sure they have the cultural supports, the livable rights that they need, food and housing. That's definitely where we start, but it should never be where we end, right? It's about how we keep people here and build the life here. And I think, talk about the city infrastructure, maintaining graduates to stay here, like if they can. I know there's lots of places they would like to go and they follow job opportunities, but how do you think, and feel free to answer this however you choose to, how can the city of North Bay incentivize graduates from Nipissing University to stay in the north, to stay around North Bay? in terms of building up their life?
Well, I mean, our role as a university is to make students employable in some sense of the word.
Right.
They learn a lot over the course of 4 or 6 years at the university. They learn how to interact with one another. They learn skills of communication, diplomacy, creativity. These are job skills. It's not just a degree. Yeah. People get focused upon the degree and then they wonder if it's relevant anymore. It's 4 to 6 years of experience where you learn how to interact with people. And you learn how to interact with technology. You learn to interact and engage with global affairs and have these kinds of discussions in the classroom. That's the part of university people forget about. And these kinds of skills are brought to the workplace. And essentially, I view university as not a place where we shape individuals. I believe it's a place where we spend time exposing ourselves to one another and our cultural differences, and we learn from each other. And in fact, the students who attend the university will shape that university. So you put your mark on that university based on what you bring to the table. And that is the case of the workplace. So the students that you're going to hire from us are going to have an impact on your workplace, and they're going to change it for the better. Because they're going to have a different variety of opinions and a different variety of approaches and the latest skill set. So I think it's a win-win for both.
Would you say the university is trending, or I guess like averaging, a higher or lower than average in terms of like metrics of employment beyond a certain time measurement? Like, I think we used to refer to it as 6 months and 2 years. Is the university tracking in terms of like higher rates of that, or is there a high rate to measure?
Well, I'm going to just step out on a limb here. I believe we are the highest in the province at 98% by 2 years.
98, 2 years.
98% of our students have jobs within 2 years.
And is there a portion of that would be relative or similar to what they studied?
Not necessarily, because there are many degrees that are not directly aligned with professions. But certainly with us, with large divisions of nursing and education, they primarily go to those
Makes sense.
Professional opportunities.
Yeah, I like the soft skills part of that conversation because, just to put it really simply, right, it's just the other stuff that you get that's not just on the paper, right? I mean, the name of the paper, the degree of the paper, like that's important because it, gets your foot in the door. But I'm a firm believer that, what you bring as a person and what you learn as a young person and a person in education will help like shape, round it out in terms of like giving you, experiences or opportunities that you talk about that are not academically related. And I always speak fondly about my time at Nipissing because it gave me a lot of those things. It gave me opportunities to kind of, for me especially, be a big fish in a small pond, quote unquote. It allowed me to kind of have opportunities that maybe I couldn't have had at a bigger institution, right? And I think having those avenues to not only just get my degree, and change what it looks like in terms of my education, but things that whether I'm in North Bay, Toronto, Ottawa, London, wherever, I can bring value to the table of a potential employer or potential community. And I think that speaks strongly to what you get out of the Laker experience, the Nipissing University experience. Everyone has different ones, but I think that is definitely part of the core, right? So let me see. I had another point here. We went down a really interesting little discussion there, Dr. Wamsley. But in terms of like upcoming other stuff, is there anything that you kind of wanted to touch about? I had it here highlighted, the EAPT, the Equity Action Planning Taskforce, which I think has a report coming out at the end of the month. Can you maybe talk a bit about that before we?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
When I first arrived at the university, I engaged in a listening exercise for the first 100 days and beyond. Mm-hmm. And people told me that Nipissing University, like all other universities, needed to be more inclusive. And to be fair, in universities and other institutions, we do have systemic racism that occurs and discrimination. And so over that period of time, our employees, our professors, staff members, students said, we need to do something about this. Mm-hmm. And they opted for a task force to prepare an audit to see what cultural life, what academic life, what professional life is like at Nipissing University. And so we formed a task force that worked 2 years to create a request for proposals for a third-party firm to come in and ask those questions. So we wanted to know, what is it like to be a student? What's it like to pick up your food, to be counseled academically, to arrive on campus? How are you treated in your classes? What is social life like? What's life in North Bay like? What is it like to be a faculty member here? What's it like to be a staff member?
Okay.
And so the company came in and interviewed people and surveyed people, and they will be providing us with a report at the end of September. And in addition to that, we also said, how are we doing with reconciliation?
Right.
And indigenizing the campus. And so we had 2 parallel questions being asked by the same firm. So we're going to get looking forward to that report and working on those recommendations.
Will that report be made public at the time of it being
It'll
delivered?
be on the website.
Be on the website, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, I imagine just from what you just described, it's a pretty comprehensive audit. There's a lot of factors and variables there. Was the requirements put forth from I guess the administrative side of things? Was this something that you and your team said hey, we want to, look at more deeply into these areas to see if we're doing, our students, our community justice? Is that how that came about to be?
Well, it really came about from a meeting of our faculty, staff, and students. Consistent. We discussed this for 2 years before we engaged the firm so that it would ask the right questions.
Right.
So this demand came from our community.
Okay.
So this is by the community for the community.
Okay.
And so in terms of administration or faculty members or staff members, people bring expertise. So they want to ask questions that are particular to their jobs or their staff experiences or to the experience of being a student. And so we wanted all people represented.
Right. Makes sense. I like that. I think I'm keen to look. I'm looking out for it. I'm going to read it. When it drops at the end of the month, I'm going to scan through it. Hopefully it's not as heavy as this package I have here from the Ontario government, but I'm keen to see the depths in which the report goes because I'm a graduate, former employee. I still very much care about the university. I love what it was able to provide to me. It's never perfect. Obviously, there's things and parts that have different challenges and struggles. But I think the first step is acknowledging what you can do to elevate and to meet the needs of others, right? And I think things like this go about helping that get done. So I think it's a good place to start. And you mentioned 100 days of listening. Can we come back to that for a second?
Yeah, fairly typical for a new president to come in and talk to people. Okay. So I wanted to know what Nipissing University was doing well and what it needed to do better. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time meeting all day long with different constituents on campus, off campus.
Okay. Imagine if you're taking notes, it's a lot of notebooks.
Well, I did file a report.
Okay. There you go. Fair enough. Okay. So before we get you out of here, Dr. Wamsley, I'll throw it to you for anything upcoming. Anything you want to share with our listeners in terms of events coming up or projects or announcements? We went over a couple, but this is all for you here if you want to highlight anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of interesting work going on at Nipissing University in every subject that you can imagine. There's such great research going on at the university that people may not know about. And we'd like to take opportunities to invite people on campus to attend talks, to see what's going on, to see what people are working on. Last year, for example, we raised money towards a student support fund for research. So we worked on the emergency fund in the 2 years ago, and then last year, trying to provide funds for students so that they could have paid experiences with our outstanding professors in the field.
Right.
So we could pay them in the summer months or during the term. This year, we'll be working on trying to get more people integrated into the workplaces of North Bay. So work-integrated learning we'll be working on that, and should be some announcements coming up. We have a group that's working on that. Previous in the year, we announced a $5 million donation from the Weston family, who are helping us to establish a national hub for rare dementia in North Bay.
Right.
So we will be establishing a facility for folks who suffer from rare dementia to come in person. We're also setting up technological hubs so that our staff members and student interns can interact with people who suffer from rare dementia across the country.
Okay.
We will be reaching probably in excess of 5,000 patients in the next few years.
Wow. So if we can talk about that before we get going, where's that located? Who's going to be kind of like staffing it? What's the operations kind of side of things?
Well, right now, it's been operating for between 3 and 4 years. It started with a small team.
Yeah.
It began with a researcher who came from the UK, Mary Pat Sullivan. Dr. Mary Pat Sullivan is, if you know Mary Pat, has done an excellent job. She just received a $750,000 CIHR grant to understand how best to serve patients and their families. In other words, people don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what to expect. So the Westons, I spoke to Galen Weston Jr., and he said, my dad got dementia, and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what was coming around the corner and had no idea what to do. And we are people of means. What do average people do? And so they were very interested in supporting our project. We're dealing with early onset dementia and other forms of dementia. Which affect thousands and thousands of Canadians. And so right now we're operating out of a location at the university. We're going to outgrow that because we're probably going to move to a dozen staff and many more internships for our students.
Okay.
And so we see that as such a positive resource for the city of North Bay and surrounding region. There will be Indigenous patients, there will be rural patients and isolated folks that we will be able to reach. Who find Mary Pat's programs to increase the quality of life to no end.
Right. Very cool. It's very cool. I mean, I'm excited to see the expansion. I think we maybe covered or put like the announcement of the story of the additional funding that happened just recently in our Echo Essentials newsletter. So, I think we're watching, but it's always good to hear it from from the top. So, Dr. Wamsley, thank you so much for coming in today. I appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure. It's always fun for me to talk about post-secondary education.
You're always welcome back. So until next time, it was a pleasure having you. And, whether it's Ben or myself, we'll see you at homecoming.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for listening or watching the Echo Essentials podcast. My name is Chris Piekarski. Let us know what your thoughts on the episode, what your takeaways were. Also, feel free to like and share the episode as well with all your friends, your community, and share the news of Echo Essentials. If you can, also subscribe to our Echo Essentials newsletter, which you can find on the website, and make sure you follow us on all platforms, wherever you get your podcasts.